All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GeekdomQNA, the videos where I answer your questions about anything, but let's be real, it's pretty much Dragon Ball. So let's go ahead and get started today. I hope y'all are having a great summer. It's early summer and it's going to get a lot hotter, but I'm in Florida and it's always hot. So it's summer, I'd say 10 months out of the year. So today I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, and I'm going to start with the oldest question, which is actually not a Dragon Ball question, but we're going to go ahead and knock it out. I've got 4 Dragon Ball questions and then one from the Griffin 421, which actually, it kind of is a Dragon Ball question, but it's actually multiple questions. He threw a whole bunch of questions at me, and I keep saying the word question. Maybe I should stop saying it. So let's go ahead and get started with the Griffin 421. I'm going to go through these one by one. Okay, your favorite Marvel superhero, villain, and perhaps anti-hero. It's a tough question. My favorite villain is Thanos or Thanos, whatever you want to call him. The only reason why I call him Thanos is because Stan Lee pronounced it as Thanos during the Marvel Magic Hour back in the 90s when I was a kid. So I'm used to saying that, even though I guess it's Thanos because Jim Starlin created the character, so he has priority over Stan Lee. So he's my favorite villain. My favorite hero for years has been Wolverine. I love Wolverine. I love the Punisher. I love Gambit. I love Spider-Man. Those are my favorites. Who else do I love? The Hulk. I love the Hulk. Those are kind of the guys who I love. As far as anti-hero goes, I suppose Cable, maybe? I guess, does he count? I guess he would be, good. And then he goes, are those all the categories? And could you tell me why? Do this for DC too, perhaps? So I guess, it's whatever categories you want, Griffin. So it's up to you, bro. But, could you tell me why? Well, I like Wolverine because he's a badass. Wolverine's kind of like the Vegeta of X-Men. They even have a similar hairstyle, right? And I love Thanos because I love the fact that he's just such a badass, and the fact that he's kind of a beta because he's all sprung over some chick, which I'm not going to spoil here because it might actually spoil the movie, but those of you who have read the comic know what I'm talking about. It's not just an ordinary girl. And I do love the fact that Thanos, I'm going to call him Thanos. He's the only guy, like one of the only villains that actually has won like several times. Like he's not one of those guys that comes in and just loses. He's actually won a few times. So that's kind of cool. Like I always like that. I also love Venom. I forgot to mention. Huge fan of Venom. Love Venom from the start. The entire story, his powers. And I'm talking about comic book Venom, not that pussy Venom from Spider-Man 3, which damn near ruined the character. As far as DC goes, Batman, you could make an argument he's the greatest superhero of all time. There's so many Batman stories throughout the years. He's definitely my favorite. Villain-wise, I love Brainiac. Love Brainiac. I love Darkseid too, but of course, Thanos was copied from Darkseid. But love Brainiac. I think he's the kind of villain that I can really sink my teeth into as far as just reading him. He's kind of like a little tiny bit like Ultron, maybe a little smarter. So that's how that goes. As far as anti-hero, does the Martian Manhunter count? He's like the Piccolo of DC. I like him a lot. So I'm guessing Deadpool is your favorite anti-hero if he counts. No Punisher? Are they classified as heroes now? Favorite Marvel heroes, Wolverine. Your favorite Marvel villain is Venom? That's creepy because... So I just said that. I just mentioned those guys, and I didn't even read the guy's question, the second part of it. So he figured me out. Griffin, how the hell did you figure this out before I even answered it? Like, I swear I didn't even read the bottom of it. That's kind of creepy. It kind of trips me out there. But you're right. I don't know if he's my favorite villain is Venom, but he's up there. I like Punisher, and I do like Deadpool. Definitely like Deadpool. Deadpool was mostly a villain when I was growing up, but he's my favorite of the guys who kind of became good guys recently. How come you aren't covering DC news, speculation, as well as some others? I'm not a huge DC fan. I like some of DC. I don't consider myself knowledgeable enough to really talk about DC. And actually, I kind of feel the same about Marvel. I know Marvel very, very well. Some of the storylines in Marvel, I know like the back of my hand. I know some of the character interactions and just the history. But other guys on YouTube like Comics Explained just blow me out of the water. You know, I've had a lot of people tell me on YouTube that I've blown everybody else out of the water as far as Dragon Ball knowledge goes, and that's very kind of you, and it's true. Flexes. But no, he's an animal. Comics Explained is like the best on YouTube when it comes to comic book stuff, so American comics. So I know more about Marvel, and I'm more comfortable about Marvel than DC. I've only read just a few of the DC stories. A.K.A Batman vs Superman, just not interested in the DC as much as Marvel, I guess. Yeah, you're right. Would you say perhaps it goes like this in terms of your favorite franchises that you're covering? 1, Dragon Ball, 2, Star Wars, 3, Marvel, 4, Terminator. I would say that's kind of true as far as what I'm covering, but I like all kinds of different franchises. But I guess you're right. I'm guessing those are the 4 that I really do dig. That's definitely the case as well. You know, with Terminator, I've only done 1 video on Terminator, and I'm probably going to drop a review when I go see Genesis, but I don't know if I'm ever going to really cover it in depth on this channel. Maybe I will. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We'll see what the future holds. So hopefully that answered your question, Griffin. Let's get to some Dragon Ball questions, all right? So first, from Alec Toledo, one of my favorites here. Hey, D, I was just watching the Ginyu saga on Namek, and it got me thinking, and I was wondering your opinion on it. Do you think the Captain Ginyu had switched bodies with a lot of people, or do you think that's his true form? Very good question. I've gotten this one, seen it all over the place. I haven't gotten it myself. I've seen other YouTubers get this question as well. And it has been talked about throughout the years. There's no way to tell. We never get any background information on Captain Ginyu, but what we do know is that the Ginyu Force recognizes Captain Ginyu in that form, and the way that they talk to each other, both in the manga and in all the dubs, the way that the performances were done, it does come off like they've known him in that body for at least a long time. Was he in a different body prior to that? I don't know. And that also begs the question, does that technically mean that Ginyu could be really, really old? Because you wonder, right? He can switch bodies. But if he can switch bodies, what's stopping him from switching bodies with somebody else when he's about to die? In other words, like die of old age? Because if you can switch bodies, you might never die of old age. You can just keep switching bodies. So this guy might be even older than Frieza. But then it makes you wonder, I don't know. Because, I mean, again, when he switched bodies with Goku, Goku quickly pointed out that he's not used to Goku's body. So, obviously, the body that he had on Namek, the purple body, the one that we're used to, he was used to that body. So maybe that's his real body, or maybe it just takes time to get used to it. I don't know. That's a great question. That's a question for Toriyama. But I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? I don't think it's his original body. I don't. I think he might have had a weaker body, learned the change technique, and then got this one. I don't know how many times he's done it, but I think he's done it. Meshach McDaniel. Do you think Goku can go back and use his original Super Saiyan or Saiyan? And I'm going to do a video about that soon, by the way. 1, 2, and 3 forms. Absolutely. Now, before we go any further, there are going to be some light spoilers for Revival of F. Light, okay? So just giving you a warning now. What Meshach is referring to is that in Battle of Gods and Revival of F, Goku unlocks 2 new forms, the SSJ God and the SSJ God SSJ. And the question is, now that he's unlocked those forms, can he go back and use his old forms? Because you would think that if he tries to go SSJ with the gold hair, he might get the blue hair. Again, this is one of those questions that there's no way of telling, but I like to think that Goku has a much deeper control over his body than many of the other characters in the series, or any superheroes in general. So yes, I do think he can go back to those old forms. However, I don't know if he even needs to, because once you've got this God power now and he's got it controlled, which is, again, we've theorized about this when it comes to SSJ God SS, even though Goku says that's basically the SSJ God power mixed with the SSJ power, it's, to me, I still see it as Goku's mastery of the SSJ God form. I think he's got it down pat, or at least he's close to getting it down pat. So I think he can go back to use those forms, but there's literally no reason for him to. Plus, Toriyama, for those who don't know, did an interview recently where he said that SSJ 2 and 3 are just kind of unbalanced versions of SSJ 1, which to me is a huge retcon, because the entire idea behind SSJ 2 originally, when Gohan unlocked the form, was that it was a perfected version of SSJ1 without the limitations of the overused muscles or any of that. It was like the perfect form. SSJ2 has always been seen as like the perfect fighting form with no downgrades and no, catches, so to speak. But Toriyama's now saying that, well, it doesn't really matter now because the blue hair is what's in. So if they continue Dragon Ball Super after the Fukkatsu no F, or after End of Z, that's kind of all we're going to see at this point from Goku, and probably from Vegeta as well. Awesome Card Games writes, here's a question: do you think Cell would be invincible if he had the Ginyu Force's DNA? He would most likely be able to hold his breath much longer than Guldo and be able to easily kill Gohan. Yeah, what you're referring to, Awesome Card Games, is just the fact that, not the entire Ginyu Force, even though I'm sure he would want it all, but specifically the technique that Guldo can do. We only see Guldo do this technique. No other character in Dragon Ball has been able to do this. The only one that comes close is Whis, with his ability to manipulate time. Guldo's the only guy who can literally stop time. And then I wonder if the Supreme Kai of Time has a problem with that. I don't know, but you're absolutely right. If Cell, it's not so much about having that, having their DNA. It's more so about whether or not he can learn that technique, because it's not just Cell. The same could apply for Frieza, and it makes you wonder if the Ginyu Force was working for Frieza. Obviously, Frieza was familiar with their powers. He knew Ginyu could change bodies. He knew that Birder was really fast, right? He knew these things, so he must have known that Guldo can stop time. I mean, I remember they even said in the anime that Guldo's entire reason for being in the Ginyu Force was because of that ability, because he wasn't that physically strong. So it makes you wonder, why didn't Frieza ask? Well, again, it's probably because Frieza had a huge ego, but he should have asked to learn that technique, because he would have probably killed Goku. But to answer your question, I'm rambling right now. I like talking about this stuff. I do think that Cell would have killed Gohan if he had that technique. I mean, really, anybody with that technique to stop time, all you have to do is stop time, and rather than goof off like Guldo did, you stop time and then you can avoid their move or whatever. Or, whatever the case may be. The thing about stopping time is that you do hold your breath when you do it, and then that makes you wonder, wait a minute, does Cell even breathe? He's got cells, so he obviously needs oxygen for those cells, duh. But he's also a cyborg, basically. So does he breathe? I think he does. But again, that technique is more of a defensive technique in that you can't just hold your breath and then shoot a ki blast. I never saw that. I never saw that being the case. I think you need, if you know anything about martial arts, you know about what a ki is, which is like when you use your breath and your lungs to give your body power. So when you throw a punch, kia, you actually literally like use your energy. It's real. Like, it really is real, because I've done it and I've seen it done in front of me. So Cell would probably just use that time freeze move to kind of stop Gohan and then, find ways to kill him that way. So yeah, he would have easily killed him. But I don't think he would have just stopped time and then killed him. I think he would have stopped time to avoid his move, got behind him, and just kind of had his way with him. That's a very good technique. It's just weird that nobody else knows it. Maybe only Guldo's race, the frog things with the 4 eyes, are the ones that can do that move. I don't know. Just guessing. Last question from Darth Bobcat. If you could choose any character from a DBZ source that isn't really canonical, movie, video game, even GT, to be given a major role in Dragon Ball Super, who would it be? So we're pulling an idea from the non-canon world or whatever. So initially I would say Cooler, but I think that Cooler has I think that whole Frieza race is kind of, with Fukkatsu no F coming out, I think that they kind of need a rest. In my opinion, they should just give those guys a rest. So I don't know about that, but honestly, I would probably go with Baby. I would go with the Sufurujin. I think the one thing about GT is, like it or not, the idea of a Sufurujin, or a Sufurian, if you want to say that, whatever way you want to say it, or a Tuffle, as it was called in the dub. The idea of a Tuffle coming back after all these years to get revenge, that's a great idea. And I said it in my Dragon Ball In-Depth video, episode 2, the 5 good things about GT. I said that Baby's one of them because I love the idea, not just the fact that he's coming back for revenge against, you know, King Vegeta's offspring and the whole race, but also the fact that he has that ability to get into people's open wounds and make them zombies. That was a great idea. Like that, you know, it's just too bad that GT kind of dropped the ball as far as making Goku a kid again, and, you know, all the mistakes they made there. Plus, also, you know, it's one of those things where GT was coming out in a time, and people don't want to talk about this, but it was coming out in a time when Dragon Ball was it had been going on for too long, and people kind of needed a break from it. I think that if GT never happened, and instead of Super we were getting GT now, I think there would be tons more excitement. But I also do believe that Goku becoming a kid again would have also been a problem. That was a huge mistake. That was the biggest mistake they made. Had they turned Goku back into adult, or just never done the kid thing, I think GT would be looked upon more fondly. I really, really do. And other than the fact that the characters are all jacked up, but no, I'm going off on tangent here. I'm just saying that Baby would probably be it, because I just love that idea. Anyways, that's it for GeekdomQNA, folks. Go ahead and leave your questions below, and I will answer them next week or whenever. Probably next week. I do these once a week. Go ahead and leave those questions below for me, and let me know. And again, I'll probably actually get the Ask FM going probably after I do 2,000 subs, if I make it there. So definitely help me out, spread the word. Then I'll have enough of a big list of questions to actually do an Ask FM. But in the meantime, drop them down below and I'll answer them. If you asked me a question last week and I didn't get to it, please ask it one more time in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer it. I will always do my best to answer it. You know, there's no question I will not answer, those of you who have heard these before. So have a great rest of your weekend, guys, and I'll catch your ass down the road.